Hello, Anne Marie with AM Astro. It's been a long time since I've done any videos. Why is that? I don't know. I think it's because I have a lot of cardinal energy, so I like starting things and then don't follow through. I do have a fixed moon, but I don't know. But the reason why I wanted to come on today is because, and I'm sorry about the glare on these glasses. They're supposed to be non-glare, but I'm sitting right in front of a window. Um, So Virginia Giuffre's book is coming out tomorrow. And yesterday, I think it was yesterday, it might have been the day before, they announced, or no, Friday, I guess it was Friday. They announced that Andrew has given up his dukedom or his titles, royal titles. Oh, he's not a French poodle, but he has to French kiss me. Silly boy. Um, so I remembered when I was taking classes with Tina, um, one-on-one astrology classes, and I did that for 2 years, sometimes twice a week. One of our classes, I remembered talking about Virginia Giuffre and Prince Andrew and looking at their charts, what's it called, synastry wise. And so I went back to try to find that video, and that took me a while to try to track it down because it was from January of 2022. So that was a long time ago. And it's funny that I've been studying astrology this long. Not really, but I mean, since I've been taking classes constantly since 2020, um, in one form or shape or another. But I have done so many different types of astrology. It's crazy. And so I'm looking at this video and I'm trying to, you know, I can't stand watching myself. So this is probably why I don't record myself anymore. But I couldn't even figure out I couldn't remember which house system that I used back then. So it was porphyry, which I don't use now. That was because uh, because Tina she comes at it from a evolutionary astrology viewpoint. And that's how I found her initially, was because the teacher that I had before that, once I learned that the nodes in evolutionary astrology speak toward past lives and the karma you come in with, I was like, what? And I had to search and learn more and more and more about that. And so that's how I found Tina. Spent 2.5 years with her, um, and then went to Soulwise Astrology with Patricia Walsh, and Laura Albandian, Nalbandian, um, and one other lady, and I can't remember her name right now. But so yeah, so we were looking at it from we were looking at them from this viewpoint where you look at, all the steps of the evolutionary astrology reading course is like you look at Pluto placement and the South Node placement and the ruler of the South Node, rather than, traditional astrology or most modern astrology even is the sun, the ascendant, and the moon, and you look at that right off the bat. So I was looking at reading it from those aspects, and anyway, I just thought it would be fun to look at it again now to see with um, because back in the reason why we were looking at it in January of 2022, that was when her trial, her civil trial, and Prince Andrew was trying to say, no, I'm royal. You don't get to take me to court. And so the judge ruled, no, you don't, just because you're royal doesn't mean you're going to get out of it. And so there was a settlement at that time. And so that was a subject matter that I was like, hey, let's look at these charts. And so anyway, so we did. And basically, I wanted to look at those charts again and then look now to see what the transits now, because even though Virginia is no longer with us, her book is coming out posthumously. Is that how you say it? And so I wanted to see, because your birth chart is yours forever, even though you're gone, on to another life. Like that South Node in evolutionary astrology, karma flows through you. And so her life is coming back in the form of this memoir. So I wanted to look at the charts and their transits today. So how do we do this? I forget. Gosh, it's been so long. Share screen. Um, yeah. Okay. So here's Virginia's chart. And uh, one of the key things I think that you'll see is they both have 11 degrees Leo rising, which I think pretty interesting uh, point. Like their karma, well, their ascendant is, I mean, for that point to be exact is phenomenally interesting. But she has this Leo sun and a Leo moon in the first house, being Leo rising. So look at all that Leo energy. So of course she would get tangled up with a prince, right? But it's sad. It's a sad tangling up because you see she has Venus in the second house retrograde. So there's this already, and Venus is in fall. So there's uh, self-worth issues and moving away from Mercury. It's just kind of like her thoughts in the house of values. Mercury is in rulership and in exaltation, and Venus is backing away from it. And so that, but they're still connected there. So there's this sense of my thoughts and my desires are going in different directions. Um, so all that Leo energy, and then this uh, Venus retrograde with Mars in the 12th house in detriment or in fall as well. Um, so it's like behind the scenes, desires behind the scenes, or not being able to act out in public. A lot of behind the scenes energy there. With her South Node in the fifth house of romantic relationship or sex, fun, having fun, but there's a sense of romance and pursuit of and taking chances there in that fifth house, ruled by her Jupiter, which is in rulership, but it's over here in the fifth house conjunct Uranus, which means there's going to be shocking things. There's going to be disruption there. Um, and she has this Saturn Pluto conjunction at the bottom of her chart. And coincidentally, I'm looking at this saying, hey, there's a new moon right at that degree tomorrow when her book is coming out. Like, isn't that interesting? At the bottom of the chart, posthumously, this is the end of the matter, the grave, and 1 degree Scorpio as her IC. It's like this sense of coming up from behind the grave with her book. Um, very interesting there. But a new moon right on that point of a Saturn Pluto conjunction in Libra. Now Saturn is exalted in Libra, but that definitely malefically positioned with Pluto, and just this sense of uh, childhood trauma or very difficult foundations coming from the family that she came into this life with just a uh, very heavy karmic footprint from family, from the home, from she inherited this sense of maybe being helpless almost, like because you've got an exalted Saturn, but Saturn is the no, and then Pluto is there just kind of um, being, the god of the underworld. Just it just feels very much like men would overpower, like that male energy she would look up to them, and it would not be a good thing. She has almost everything under the horizon except her Mars. Mars is a morning star here rising above the sun, but in the 12th house. So it's almost like, it's things when that have just come up from the horizon, dawn. It's I don't know about you, my eyesight's going bad now that I'm getting older. And so those in between times, those liminal times, like at dawn or dusk, my eyes can't adjust to details very well. And so you get that idea of this Mars, her intentions, Mars in fall in Cancer. So it's like Mars being the agent of the soul's mission is just kind of like, not really sure. It's not sure-footed. It's not an active Mars ready to go. There's some issue there, and that's the only thing that's above the horizon here, other than the North Node, which is in the 11th house of the collective. So there's a sense that she has something to bring forth to the collective. With Neptune conjunct the South Node and opposing the North Node. So there's, her disappointments in life, she experienced and brought into this lifetime these disillusioned expectations in her romantic relationships, possibly, or in what expressing herself and having a good time, taking chances, and those that she would have fun with would be in a fog, would be disillusioned and disappointing, end up in disappointing results. But because the North Node is pulling things this way into the collective, it could bring benefit to the collective. And that speaks back down to this Mercury separating away from the retrograde Venus, because Mercury is ruling the North Node. And so you kind of get this sense of the thoughts, the beliefs, the understanding continues on away from the doubts and self-worth, the retrograde Venus saying in the second house in fall. Mercury is moving beyond that and pulling toward the North Node. So did I want to say anything else? I already talked about, did I say Jupiter ruling the South Node in the fourth house of those foundations, conjunct Uranus. So there's a sense of her higher self and what she wants, what she believes she can do, because Jupiter also rules this ninth house. Is held down in the birth chart, but the fact that she's publishing this book, and that's a ninth house thing, is like this surprising come from behind or unexpected, posthumously bringing a result that benefits. So if we look at, is this the right one? So this is transits for today. Then go away. Okay, so that Jupiter is in a trine to this Neptune-Saturn conjunction right on her ninth house cusp. So we have this sense of, like I said, this unexpected, she finally gets to speak. All that disappointment that Neptune ruling on conjunct her South Node is with Saturn, and it's just like, no more. It's my turn to speak. I'm going to publish this book, ninth house. I'm going to tell my side of the story so that people can understand what I went through. And you can see Jupiter over here conjunct that Mars. So expanding that voice that didn't have the confidence or the courage in that 12th house, in that fallen state, to live and to express it herself. And now she has Jupiter expanding that voice for her, where we have this Mars Mercury conjunction in her fourth house. This is amazing. This is whoops.
Unknown caller.
No, I don't need to speak to a realtor. This is, you see this violence and the voice, this in Scorpio, let's talk about this. And this is square to her sun. It's like the communication, the story, the voice, Mercury, the intention, the drive, the violence, Mars, and they've come together in our fourth house beyond the grave in Scorpio. Um, and yet her son, it's squaring the sun. Her son is in the superior position. So she's going to come out shining. She's going to come out. She's going to say what she has to say from beyond the grave. And the new moon is happening right on top of her IC and on this Saturn Pluto conjunction while Saturn is transiting her ninth house beautifully. I mean, it's just the astrology is just so beautiful. The South Node is approaching her Mercury Venus conjunction. So it seems like this is like the releasing of that karma. This is the releasing, South Node releasing, draining out, coming to and bringing it to fruition. So that's beautiful as well. Pluto going through her sixth house seems to me to be speaking of the transformation of what was hidden, all the things that she had to submit to um, are being brought to light, being transformed now, rather than this hidden secret story that's dark and ashamed is now being transformed into no, this is you were a victim and you were taken advantage of and you were abused, and the people that had the power, Pluto, are now in a position of having to submit to that reality. Okay, let's look at Andrew, and I'm just going to say Andrew, okay? Because I don't want to say the rest of it. So 11 degrees Leo rising. That's just crazy. Um, so born into royalty with Uranus in the first house. He was a disruptor from birth. Like in that, there's a book called Entitled that's out. I think it's a new release as well. I haven't read it all yet. I'm listening to it on audiobook. But just at the very beginning, it's talking about his childhood. What an actual Uranus in first house individual in Leo. I know other people that have Uranus in the first house, and they're not disruptors like that. It depends, the sign is going to give a flavor to it. But Uranus in the first house, it's going to be pretty evident. And in Leo, you can imagine, it's all about him. It's all about creative, look at me kind of stuff, just getting in the way, doing things that people are just like, oh my God, there's Andrew again. Oh my God, what did he do now? That just constant childhood troublemaker, and carried that childhood craziness into adulthood. I don't have to take responsibility for anything. I can just act and do whatever I want. And let's see. So this is the other one, 0 degrees, 0 minutes, Pisces sun. And when I look at 3:30, it sounds exact, but the royal family birth times are pretty much exact. So we're going to go with it. But think about the sun in Pisces, just making it into Pisces. The sun is in detriment in Aquarius because it rules Leo. So it's in detriment in Aquarius. And so it has just escaped detriment. So it's almost as if this sun, this birth chart, this sun, the star, not the guy, this lifetime is almost like, you're finally going to have an opportunity to make it. You're not in detriment anymore. But the sun is on the cusp of the eighth house of other people's resources. It's just kind of comically ironic that he's, his whole chart is ruled by the sun, and it's like just gotten out of detriment, but it's like getting out of the fire and out of the frying pan into the fire kind of thing. It's just like, meh. I don't know. Just my take. And his south node is also in Pisces, as is his Mercury. Mercury's in this mutually applying trine to that Uranus of troublemaking, and in the eighth house. So it's like his thoughts and his communication are all kind of taboo. They're, he's Mercury's in detriment and fall in Pisces. Um, and so this Mercury is afflicted. It's not in the best position. And having that trine to Uranus, it's like disruption and chaos naturally flow into his mind. I'm not making excuses. I'm just looking at the chart. It's just he chose this chart. I don't know. Um, he also has, a preponderance of placements below the horizon. But his sun, that sun that just got out of detriment, is setting. So, it's like on the cusp of the eighth house, but it's setting. It's 3:30 in February in London, England, is, the sun is setting, um, going into the dark. So that Mercury is the highest placed planet. Um, and and it has and it's a mess. What else does it have? It has this, so he has this grand trine, Uranus, Mercury, and then his moon. It's the moon is separating, and then Neptune is also separating because it's retrograde. But there is this midpoint here between the moon and Neptune. So you get this sense of disappointment from his mother too, as being part of this trine. So you kind of see how he, like, one of the things that I said in that book was that he would put itching powder or something in the queen's bed. Uh, Craziness. He also has a Mars-Venus conjunction with Venus separating from Mars. So this signature, Tina said this is often seen, this Mars-Venus conjunction, where Venus is separating from Mars. Um, it's often seen as men liking younger girls. If you see that signature, it can be that. Now in Capricorn, Mars is exalted in Capricorn. And so you kind of get this idea of, and in the sixth house, it's, you kind of see right there this idea of I'm a prince, I'm exalted. Oops, I used the P word. And so young girls will obviously want to be with me. In the sixth house. It's like I will have them submit to me, or whatever they do behind closed doors. He might have the opposite, he might want to be controlled. Who knows? I don't know. I don't want to know. I'll probably find out when I read the book. But um, but that's visualized there in that sixth house. And Saturn on the cusp of the sixth house says Saturn's in rulership. So that kind of feels like the royalty, the family, the royal family, because Saturn is very prominent in a lot of, like, was very prominent in right on the midheaven, Queen Elizabeth, and it's very prominent in Charles, and it's prominent in William. It's very prominent in the royal family. So interesting that it would be prominent. Is it prominent here on the cusp of the sixth house, a dark house, the house of submission? That kind of says you're the spare. You're the spare. Um, what else do I want to say about this chart? Well, when we look at the bi-wheel of the two of them, but so she had what she had. Yeah, okay. Mercury ruled her north node, and Mercury rules his north node. So that's interesting. And his Mercury is in the eighth house, and hers was in the second. So they had that 8 second. Um, you know, he's in others' resources, and she's having to come up with her own resources. But let's look at the transits with Prince Andrew right now. And we can see the north node hitting his Mercury. Uh, so kind of saying, your comeuppance is due now. Justice, not necessarily justice, but the future, the North Node is, pulling you toward the future, and the fact that it's connecting with his Mercury is kind of like the story is coming out now, and it's a taboo story. It's a story of very dark things. And just Pisces is, you're not, I don't know, it feels like sand running through the fingers, right? At the beach, just trying to grasp water. And so I don't, hopefully, what is it, Kaido? Um, hopefully he does have to pay. The new moon is just past his IC and in the fourth house. So this is a foundational thing. It's going to affect the family. The Mars Mercury conjunction is a little bit far from his moon, but both of these planets are going to be approaching that moon soon. And so this could be, I mean, Mars severs things. He was his mother's favorite, they say. Um, but him having to give up, they make it sound like it was his choice. I don't think so. You think King Charles is also heard that King Charles is trying to get it all wrapped up before Kaido, stop. Get this all wrapped up before he has to pass the crown on to William. So William doesn't have to deal with the mess. I don't know that they're going to be able to get rid of the mess. I think the mess is too messy. But Pluto is transiting that, or has transited, and this was going on back in 2022, 2023, like in the past year or two, as Pluto passed over this. So there was a sense of, even though he had the settlement, he paid her the settlement, there is still more to it. There's still more transformation to it. And now it's coming out, which is, that Pluto is in a square to the new moon. Yeah, it's a square. So yeah. So accountability. What else? What else? What else? Seemed like there was more here. The Saturn on the South Node, talk about accountability in the ninth house. It's a publication. It's a book that's coming out about the mischief that you've gotten into, and this is your the release of it, the release of the information, and now you're going to have to deal with it. That is telling, and it's in a trine to the moon. So I think as these planets hit that moon, there's going to be this, Scorpio, just the deep, dark secrets coming out, and the karma is going to hit. I think it is going to hit him. I think it is going to hit. He's going to have to, I believe I heard that he's going to have to leave the country. He'll be in exile. Jupiter from the 12th house in exaltation is approaching this opposition to this Venus. So when that actually hits that opposition, because Jupiter is, there's a sense of justice with Jupiter, and because Jupiter rules the ninth house of judgment of the courts, this could be when he is forced to, let's see, when he's forced to go into exile. Well, it hits retrograde. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so when does it station? Stations in early November. Interesting. Okay, so that station is in a trine to the moon. So there's something about that says, no, not yet. There's something, and then look, it's in a perfect trine here to Saturn 25, 25, 25. There's something about early November that makes me think, what kind of release could it be? That grand trine, water trine, it's like he's slipping away. Like maybe he escapes on his own. Like he's not exiled, he just runs. to a foreign land. Um, 12th house is also hospitals and prisons, confinement. And then that fourth house is the end of the matter. So it could be that the uproar when they read the book after the release of the book, that it just is um, too much, and he has to run. Okay, well, I guess we could look at a by will of the two of them to see the things. So I have Virginia on the inside and Prince Andrew on the outside, and their uh, nodal axis is squaring each other, mutable, mutable. Um, and then, like I said, the Mercuries they're in opposition. It's a little bit wide, but they're opposing signs. Hers is in exaltation and rulership, and his is in detriment and fall. Um, but across the second, eighth houses. So, other people's money and resources and your own, Virginia's own resources. Well, it's also Prince Andrew's resources, but he doesn't have anything over here. He has Pluto in the North Node. Kaido, come here, son. Come here. I have my grand dog here, and he's a little bit needy at the moment. So because they have the exact same ascendant, it's kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, everything we looked at, you could see what was going to match. But putting it here, you can kind of see, like her IC is a little bit later in the game than his is. So he has his 22 Libra is his IC. And so his midheaven is in her ninth house. So let's think about what that could mean. Because if it's in your ninth house, it's foreign. So he was a foreign prince, um, public. Uh, he's bringing his reputation and his public standing to her and somehow trying to impress her with that. And because it's ruled by Mars and her Mars is in the 12th house, you kind of get the idea there. Yeah. And her Mars is a square. Why is my it's not working? Is in a square to that midheaven too. Um, and their Mars is are in opposition, exact opposition. Wow. I mean, like to the minute. Holy cow. That's crazy. Missed that one. We probably talked about it in my video with Tina, but I didn't listen to it because I can't listen to myself. So, well, okay, so Mars rules her IC, her fourth house, and intercepted ninth house. Doesn't that just, and his midheaven is in that intercepted ninth house. That just sounds like secrets behind the scenes, places that nobody's going to see you, islands, traveling on planes to islands that nobody's going to see you. And then Mars, the ruler, being in fall in the 12th house of the unseen. Um, and his Jupiter is in a in conjunct, but it's sitting on top of that Neptune, that disappointment. Okay, well, yeah, and his disruptive Uranus in the first house is on top of her sun. Wow, that trauma. And it's applying because it's retrograde. So they're mutually applying. So it's just like, this is disaster right here. Don't ever get involved with somebody whose Uranus is right on top of your sun. Just don't. That would just be trouble. That would just be bad. That would just be bad. So, okay. Well, just thought I'd do a little ditty on Andrew and Virginia, and her book is entitled, I'll put a link below, Nobody's Girl, and it comes out tomorrow if you're interested in reading that, if we haven't already heard enough of it all. But I hope that she is feeling the power, the momentum now that the voices are rising for justice to be brought. And I mean, with everything that's going on, I'm feeling a bit discouraged. I'm feeling a bit like, is justice ever going to happen for any of us anymore? But I feel that the book coming out is going to be significant. I feel like there is going to be a movement, and it's going to add to, think of it like adding to just the no kings or princes, no kings rallies that we had. Just, we are so tired of the billionaires deciding what is true and what is worth having justice for. And so I think her book is going to add to the momentum, and whether or not uh, the explosive information in it will bring down anyone else in the boys club. I don't know, but we'll see. And so anyway, I just wanted to look at these charts and get back on here and say hi and hope everyone's doing well. And we will maybe see you soon. It may be another 8 months before I do another chart. We'll see. Bye-bye.